All right, so I am Lumophile, and on commentary through a Discord call, we got Chuck Grody. We're going to be playing through King's Quest 1 through 7, the 7 games that are released in the King's Quest collection, ranging from, I believe, like 1981, 1983 through 1995. So it's quite a span of years. Some disclaimers. I'm pretty nervous right now. I'm kind of hopped up on coffee and going on 24 hours being awake with no sleep. So I'm probably going to make a lot of mistakes and typographical errors, and feel free to make fun of me and bully me in the chat. Anything you want to say before we go into Chuck?
I would never do that to you, sir. I'm just about as sleep deprived as you are right now.
Excellent. So the first few games run on the AGI engine, and as you can see on fast, they run very fast. So I kind of have to focus on the games to begin with, and can't really talk too much. Can't really respond to chat very much. So that's what Chuck is for, and he'll be able to answer any of your questions as well as I could, and likely better. So he'll be reading chat and posting Caleb emotes, I'm sure. And I'm ready to go whenever you guys are. All right. Timing for this game starts on reset. I'll probably tell you guys time in between each of the games. You don't have to stop the timer, just noting when I'm going to close the game and start a new one. And I'll let you know when time ends on the 7th game. So starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Nobody saw that.
All right, this is King's Quest for the Crown. It revolves around King Graham recovering the 3 treasures of Daventry, which is the magic shield, chest, and mirror. Before King Edward dies, it's a knight's tale. He's got to claim the throne. We employ a technique called zipping, which is essentially just like as you're seeing right now with what Lumo's doing, is just ping ponging all over the map, try to get to certain areas, and it's essentially what we've kind of worked on, and it's just the route in general, so we can get the game down to 2 minutes at this point. Um, the first thing he's going to go for is the mirror, which is in the Dragon's Cave. Go down here into this well and dive down over to it.
I'm not going to get this
Lumo
just
is
because it's
having some
marathon
trouble.
luck.
It's all good.
It's,
Oof.
yeah, we're just going to do it the old way. It's a pretty decent time save if you can get it. Obviously, as much as you can run on fast, you want to.
Anyways,
But
there's really not too much to talk about with this game. It's really simple. It's essentially a scavenger hunt.
your generic
With
get
this
3
dragon right here, we're just
items.
gonna toss some water and get our mirror, and it's gonna be that. Um, I really don't know what else to talk about with this game. It's so simple. Um, anyways, I'll just say where we're going. After the mirror, we're gonna get the shield. Yeah, the shield. And to do that, we had to get past this troll and go up there and we talk to Rumpelstiltskin. His name, we don't really care about his name right now. That might be pertinent in something we're doing later.
In this game, it's
Here's a big
Rumpelstiltskin
RNG section
backwards.
right here with this bird. It travels upside the left side of the screen over to the right and somewhat down the right, complete right end. And you have to jump catch it. And we managed to do that on the fastest heck speed by just mashing the jump button, which is 0 on the keyboard.
Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't.
Now we have to give egg to this rat because there's a number of treasures items you can get in this game that essentially act as like keys to barriers. Barriers being like the troll and the rat right there, and the wonderful sour please music that the leprechauns like to listen to, or it's their voices or something. I'm not entirely sure. And get the shield after that. Now we're climbing this big staircase over here. There's a dwarf right here that shows up 60% of the time. What he does is he steals one of the treasures from you, and so we essentially just scum his RNG. Ooh,
This isn't
I
great.
say don't go for it, man. You're gonna die. That's the last big piece of RNG right, or bit of RNG right there. The giant can pretty much fall asleep anywhere, any XY coordinate on that section right there. And we just have to go over there and get the chest from him. Normally, what he'll do is he'll kill you in one shot, but since we have the shield, which protects us from basically everything, uh, he doesn't bother us. And so now that we've gotten all the treasures, the only thing left to do is
It's
to
the
go
end of one.
present them to, and that's King's Quest 1, Quest for the Crown. Time is right as the first text box shows up. Excuse me. King's Quest 2, Romancing the Throne. Some amount of time has passed since King's Quest 1, where King Graham was his wife, and he sees a vision in the magic mirror of this woman named Valenice stuck in a tower, girl in the tower. That won't happen again. This one is essentially the same thing as King's Quest 1. It's the old, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality, where it didn't change too much with the game itself, but they just kind of changed the premise a slight bit. You have to open up 3 different doors with magic keys, and the keys are hidden throughout this land of, I think it's Lima or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. Floor doesn't really matter, but I was talking anyway. The map in here is a bit bigger. There's a few more different things to interact with. The biggest problem with this particular speedrun is the sheer amount of RNG. There's an enchanter. This is old hag, aptly named Hagatha, and the dwarf from the first game still running around here. And you get caught by any of them, you're basically boned. And that's the whole thing is to try and avoid them and get around here as fast as possible. And same thing as the first one. First thing that you saw was that we went down to a mermaid and gave a trident to King Triton. Now we have to get to this up on this cliffside by riding a magic carpet. And then the key's up in the cave up there.
A little bad
Once
luck there.
again, just like Quest for the Crown, there's really nothing special about this one aside from the sheer amounts of RNG and how incredibly volatile the run can be. But it's roughly a 5-minute run, roughly.
If you get lucky.
Cave is being protected by this snake, which we take a bridle, we throw it on the snake, and it turns into a unicorn. No, not a unicorn, a Pegasus. Then we get the key. Like I said, I mentioned with the RNG in this game, the Hagatha and the dwarf can easily be usually mitigated by that fairy that you saw right there. The fairy blesses Graham and protects them from all evil, which essentially just makes it so that the Hagatha and any of the baddies in the area don't actually affect him. However, biggest problem is that enchanter, because usually he'll just straight up one-shot us.
Turns you into a frog.
Next place that we need to go is this castle over here that's in the middle of a moat. And this death-looking guy right here that's really scary ferries us apart across if we give him one of the same little treasures. Now we have this thorn maze. Thorn maze, there's sort of guide rails around the perimeter of it that will essentially just one-shot you if they see you or if you touch it. So we're going through here. You may have noticed that little jingle at the opening or at the beginning of this place. It was actually Thriller. Little 8-bit, 2-bit, I don't know. This game's Atari graphics for goodness sakes. Rendition of it. So we go through here. There's this eerie coffin down here. We don't have to worry about that. It's not like certain types of people sleep in coffins or anything. But oh look, never mind. It's Count Dracula. This is Dracula's castle. So now what we're doing is we're getting out of here. The Pegasus up on the hillside. He gave us a magical sugar cube, which makes us immune to the thorns, and we do it on the outside when we're coming outside when we're going out Dracula's castle because it only lasts a certain amount of time when you're running this game at the speed that a modern PC can do it. It doesn't too long. So now we're in the I-VII. I don't know what this place is called. The Girl in the Tower land, and now we're pretty much closing out the King's Quest 2 by just climbing the tower and getting Our Lady. That magical amulet right there is basically our key home, quite literally. One last thing we're going to see here is a tiger, or not a tiger, a lion at the top here, and he's very ornery, but you know what? He's just hungry. So as
And
soon as he gets a
that's
hand,
the end of
he
2.
goes. And there's the lovely Valenice, and that's the end of King's Quest 2. All right, King's Quest 3. Now you see that those last two games went very fast. This game's going to take quite a while, roughly 30 minutes if we're lucky. And luck is what this game is all about because there's huge RNG sections through this that can last basically in amounts of time because there's no way to truly tell.
There was a race that Chuck and I did, and we each lost about 10 minutes just due to RNG waiting on a feather to drop from an eagle. That's the biggest RNG section, probably this entire hepatology of games. There is a 1 in 4 chance that the eagle will show up on the screen, and then there is a 1 in 2 chance if the eagle shows up that it will drop a feather, and it can take between I think 2 and 14 seconds to show up. So usually you cycle screens every 15 seconds. So very easily you can end up wasting a lot of time if you get unlucky. There are a few times where you can get it early, and we will both be going a little bit wild if that does happen, and you'll know. Yep, now we're dead. Sometimes you just get unlucky and the wizard shows up and kill you. So there are certain items in this game that are considered magic items that you end up using for spells later, and if you have any of them, when the wizard shows up, he will just straight up kill you. So what you end up having to do is gather the items and then go hide them under your bed. So this wizard, he likes to kidnap little kids, make them do his bidding, basically, slavery or whatever, until they turn 18. When they turn 18, he kills them because he finds that they get rebellious or whatever. And so this is the eve of our 18th birthday, and this cat is being a jerk. So the whole goal is to obviously try to escape this evil wizard, Mananan. So this is the first big weight of this game. There's a lot of RNG in this game. There's a lot of waiting in this game, and there's a lot of typing in this game. So this one is definitely a treat when it comes to the heptology. It's something that's definitely set aside from all the other games for a few reasons. You'll notice up at the top of the screen, you'll see where there's a timer counting up. It's at 2 minutes and 52 seconds right now. We have to wait until about 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So there are a lot of in-game things that happen based upon this timer. So when we first started, we waited on like the atrium area or the lobby, whatever you want to call it, for the evil wizard to give us a chore. So you have to do a chore, otherwise, when he shows up at 5 minutes, when he would normally go on a journey, he would give you a chore. So you have to do one chore. Um, if you don't do the chore, he'll kill you, or he'll turn you into a snail, or make you do jumping jacks, all sorts of various things. So you need to do that chore in order for him to actually go on his journey. There are 4 different chores that he can give to you, and he can't show up in this screen, which is supposed to be your bedroom. So we just do one chore and then we wait here until about 4 minutes and 50 seconds, uh, at which point I'll go left one screen and wait for him to show up, and he'll just say, Gwydion, I'm going on a journey. By the way, that's our name in this game. We were Gwydion. We were Sir Graham in the first one. Then you became knighted and became king. And then we were King Graham in the second one. And she might say, why are you playing King's Quest game? You're just some random peasant boy. Well, we'll find that out later. All the games are in fact connected. And this is not the same land that we were in either of the first 2 games, but it will also connect at the end as well. So, lore. There are also tons of Easter eggs hidden throughout. There's actually a Easter egg
Yeah, who
behind
cares about lore?
this. Yeah, who cares about lore? There's a Easter egg behind this tapestry. I might be able to show that off later, depending on how this run goes and how we are on estimate and all that stuff. But basically, it's just a ad from Sierra for another one of their games. And hopefully, I remember all the things I have to type for this game, because I don't have any notes with me. All right, so he's going on a journey. So now we get to go fast. So we get our stuff.
Good luck, dude.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So now we have to go into his hidden basement where he does all of his spells. Try not to get tripped up by the cat. And then we get to play magician. So this is the first of many spells. Why don't you tell them about this?
Alrighty. The first spell is a transform into an animal spell by using a animal like body part, usually a tuft of fur or feather or a wing. The way that these work is that they're essentially all printed in the manual as copy protection. It's a very clever way that they implemented it. So there's just a set script you have to type out there like Lumo did, and a number of commands you have to just string together. With AGI games and even the SCI games later on, there's a set number of words you can use in a file called words.tok. And we've fortunately for these games, they're almost quote unquote open sourced to an extent. Now, don't quote me on that 100%, but we can go through them and take a look and see logic files like scripts and different aspects of the game. So we've gone through the words.tok file. Shout outs to Bill Bull for this particular game, who scoured that thing like crazy to optimize it. And we found like essentially the smallest bite-sized words to use for the incantations. And what we got was just a small taste of them. He's going to be doing, I believe, 5 more later.
4.
And so now we're just going to be going around Ludor.
So this is the next instance of
Essentially,
RNG.
just like the first two games, doing a glorified scavenger hunt.
So you need to wait for the thieves to be asleep in their hideout, and it seems
Sorry.
like it is sort of on like a 10, 15, maybe even longer timer where it just varies whether they're awake or not. It doesn't seem like it's just like a percent chance. It seems like it's on cycles. But here's the most important part of any King's Quest speedrun. You have to go over here and you have to pet the dog. For a little while, they thought this was the oldest game where you could pet the
Got to
dog.
pet the woofer, man.
Yeah, they thought this was the oldest game where you could pet the dog, but it was found out that you can actually pet the dog in Zork 2 as well, which came out before this. However, Zork 2 is not graphical, it's purely text-based, so I think this is the oldest game where you can pet the dog and see it. So now this is that wait part that we were talking about. So I have to sit here and wait for one of the eagles to show up, and then also wait for the eagle to drop a feather. And until then, I'm just going to be walking on and off this screen, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
Tons of
Here we
fun,
go. Actually.
especially when you're grinding for world record in this game,
Oh yeah, it's
which
lovely.
neither of us have been able to.
So that was one eagle. He was not nice enough to drop a feather for us. There's 1 in 4 chance that he shows up, 1 in 2 chance that he drops a feather. There are 3 feather locations. The ideal feather location is right down here. Okay, we're getting lucky again, maybe. There is one more to the right. Again, teased. So yeah, this is the part where Chuck and I each lost about 10 minutes of time to pure RNG. So it's a very fun speedrun. You should totally do this. And then after this, you have to type a whole bunch of really interesting phrases, and then there's more RNG after too. So, in case you didn't have enough before, and there's also a big wait too. Yes, there's about it's roughly 13 and a half minutes later in the run.
Fear and waiting goes hand in hand.
It really does. It's about 13 and a half minutes or so. There's really not anything that we know of that we can do to get around it. In DOSBox, you can speed up the in-game timer. You can just make it artificially go faster, but that, of course, invalidates the run. So we're not going to do that. We'll probably do something else instead. In the meantime, yeah, we're just waiting on the daddy bird to drop his little feather here, and it's not coming, so bird is being a bad guy. In case you didn't know from all those other RPGs and speed games you've done before, birds are jerks.
Always.
Yeah, fun speed game.
That's only half true in King's Quest games.
You should learn it. Yeah, actually, there is one good bird. I guess there's at least one good bird. There's a good bird in 5. He's a good boy. Meanwhile, and as you can tell, there's a lot of really good music going on to keep you entertained, because it's really common in the earlier games. Actually, if we get okay, here we go. I was gonna say if it gets closer to 13 minutes or so, there we go. We got our feather. Okay, so now here's another seemingly RNG section.
It certainly does.
Okay, so sometimes the game just like soft locks here. Don't understand why you don't turn back into a human. I think this is one of those times. Yeah, you have to wait about 5 seconds, and if sometimes you turn back into human, sometimes you just sit here, and we really can't figure out why. But I think it's something to do with the position of the spider / the eagle. When you go and pick up the bird, see, did the same thing 3 times in a row, and then it just happened to work one time. So Not really sure why it works, why it doesn't, but I think it's something to do because both the bird and the spider sort of like gyrate in position. I think it's something to do with how they clash, how they connect, which is really strange though because you end up getting the same sort of cutscene where the bird drops it in the water. Other than that, I have absolutely no idea what would determine whether or not you end up um, getting out of there or not. That's not great. Okay, I guess we get to talk to the Oracle again.
Uh-oh.
I loaded it instead of saving because I'm really
Now we
good at
gotta
video
learn our
games.
heritage once more.
Yeah. So the Oracle is basically saying you're actually Prince Alexander, son of King Graham, and you have a woman to go rescue on another island. It's very important to note that I have 68 points right now, and I failed to mention earlier that when I was running, that's the wrong number. Okay, there we go. When I ran one, I very specifically did one extra, I don't know, action or whatever in order to get 1 point to end the game with 69 points. Very important. Okay, so now we have King's Quest teaches typing, and prepare for typos because there's going to be a lot of them, and prepare for me to not remember things because this is all by memory.
Good luck, man.
Thanks. Yep. Apparently not.
Oof.
One down. I always do that wrong. I knew it too as soon as I did it.
Fun fact, even if you turn the sound off for this section, it turns it back on just for this music. King Thump.
What in... Sorry, I'm just being dumb right now, apparently. So Chuck mentioned that you even if you turn the music off, it actually turning the music off is a time loss because it gives you an extra text box. All right, one more.
Monkey shake.
Oof. All right, we're through.
And we got him.
Now for Chuck's favorite part of the run.
Same man.
All right. All right, so 1513. Gonna need to remember that number. Oh, that's bad.
Mm-hmm. So this section right here, we've actually bypassed what you're supposed to do to escape Mananan because he didn't come home from his journey. However, as soon as you give the coin to the pirates, he actually does start to come home. You essentially have what I believe is like 25 seconds from when you either board, I think it's when you board the boat, and he can show up and just immediately kill Gwydion.
All right, so
So this whole section of getting to this particular spot right here where he can't show up is very monk ass.
yeah, so now we're on that wait that I was talking about. It is a 13-minute unavoidable wait. There's no way that we know of to get around this and actually complete the game. So I heard you guys like speedruns, so I'll do a speedrun while I speedrun. This is King's Quest 1 for the Sega Master System. I actually just learned this yesterday, so no promises that I actually even finish this one, but I guess it'll just keep you guys busy in the meantime. So it's
Is
just like the
this
first
the
game all over
sequential
again.
speed run or simultaneous now?
Good question. So I guess you can explain that the difference between the two categories.
Alrighty. We have two subcategories for this particular run, sequential and simultaneous. Essentially, the big difference is that the sequential one is just a straight shot through the series, 1 to 3, and we do what we're doing right here, which is the 13-minute wait, and essentially you just go one game, straight ahead. Simultaneous, you play multiple games at once, so it hasn't really been like all the way optimized to a T, but you would have like say at this point where we're hitting the 13-minute wait, you could load up King's Quest 4, King's Quest 1, King's Quest 2, 5, 6, 7, whichever one you want, and essentially play multiple games at once. It's just trying to take advantage of all these wait times and optimize it 100% as best we can.
So this game is not normally part of the King's Quest collection by any means. This is
I guess
just
I could talk about this particular game too.
something
This
that
is a
fits in the time slot.
this is an interesting port of this game. It follows the exact uh, same thing as normal Quest for Glory. Or boy, that's a better game. Quest for the Crown. Except it's done by Parker Brothers, and if you've ever played any other NES or games, NES or whatever games done by them, it's very well made. Let me tell you. You totally won't just go up off of a screen, end up in the water, and die. That won't
Oh,
happen.
definitely not. Let's see if I can remember this. I think it's Rumpelstiltskin, but all the letters are reversed. So A is Z and B is
Route is
Y.
slightly different though.
No, that's not right. I think this is correct.
Oh, you're going off of
Yeah,
memory with this, aren't you?
yeah. There we go. Got him. Oh yeah. Okay. We'll just load a save
Jesus.
state. Nobody saw
Nice,
anything.
dude. Oh, I like.
Yeah, that's really far back though. It's fine. Yeah, so there's basically no way that I can finish this in time now, probably, but that's all right. I'll just fill up some dead space anyway. I fully expected not to be able to finish this one, just because I've done like 2 full playthroughs of it ever. And like Chuck was saying, you can just kind of transition one screen to another, and end up falling off a cliff and dying with no forewarning whatsoever. So, well designed video game.
The best. There's another console port of a King's Quest game actually, and it's just as riveting.
I actually just bought that. It's King's Quest V was also ported to the Nintendo Entertainment System, if you've ever heard of that one. And it's a video game. I'll say that much. So there are a couple differences in the route, just things that don't work the same. Like how you saw, I have to get the fiddle from the whatever he is, like he's a lumberjack or something like that, and you have to get the you
Mm-hmm.
actually have to guess the gnome's name correctly because you get beans instead of the key. There we go. So I can state there. Nobody saw that either. Definitely not making save states in my speedrun. The other thing about this is I don't know the best way to go about
Invalidated,
this.
man. Sorry, you can't submit it.
Hey man, wasn't really planning on it anyway, but it's fine. Um, the other thing that's really weird about this game is
Same.
the
Oh,
swimming. You have to tell Graham that you want to swim. Basically, you have to issue a command to him to swim. Other than that, if you don't, you'll just drown because Graham can't think to swim on his own. Trying to find the well. Well, well, well. I also don't know. Oh, here we go. Blessed. The fairy godmother in this game gives you a spell of protection so that the wolf, the dwarf, all these creatures don't harm you. Can I do the condor? I can do the condor, right? Because I have the fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
Guy, come here. Where's jump? There we go. Hello? Rigged. There we go.
And think of how much fun it is.
Oh no. Do
In the
you need
original game,
the mushroom,
even
don't you?
more fun with the controller and menus.
Great time. Also, going up stairs in this version is absolutely impossible. Stairs are normally the vice of
Oh yeah.
King's Quest, and they are an absolute travesty in this game. Got about 5 more minutes or so until the wait time's up on 3, so just kind of goofing off here still. Need to eat the mushroom because get eat beans. Where do we get beans? Oh, the magic beans. Never mind. So another thing about this guy, he has a scepter and a shield, and you just totally don't even care about the scepter. So here, this is where all runs go to die because stairs are impossible. I say that, and we're out of there first try. Easy. Alright, so now we just need to find a patch of dirt. I think we can use this one, even though the dwarf's there because we're protected. Plant the beans. Climbing the beanstalk is much more straightforward in this version as opposed to the other versions because you just go straight up. In the other ones, you have to like circle around, like go side to side and stuff. Not convenient at all. And in the PC version, since we put it on like as fast as it can go, um, you just wait for the giant to fall asleep. But instead, in this one, you can't wait him out. Well, I guess you could, but it takes a really long time. So instead, we kill him. Sorry, guy. Take his chest. So you never really do much with the treasures in the games. The shield is extremely useful. Also, the mirror is useful. I didn't realize until actually reading the text recently. The shield actually protects you from the enchanter. It reflects your spell back to him, or off of you, I guess, so you're not affected by him. But the chest is just like a limitless, bottomless chest full of gold. It's endlessly spilling out coins. And the shield protects you from all other, normal dangers or whatever, like the witch and the dwarf and all that stuff, and the giant as well. Walking is such a pain in this game. All right, so he's like, hey, you got all this stuff. I think I got all this stuff, right? Talk to King. Succeeded in your quest. You have to give him the stuff? I thought you had to just like talk, go to the back to the, oh, bow
You
to
gotta
King.
bow.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, man.
Remember, you gotta bow, otherwise it's invalid.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, okay, Vice. Nice rules. What am I missing? Did Ninja just talk to him? And then he's like, hey, and you did it. Give, I don't know, give him the shield. Can't do that. How do you beat the game? Give him the chest.
You gotta.
I thought you had to walk to the back wall, and that's like what
I
triggered
got a
it.
problem with this, and unfortunately, I'm so rusty on this game, I don't remember.
Okay, cool. Well, we did it, I think. Good job, Reddit. I don't know. We succeeded in our quest. GG.
We did it, Reddit.
Just in time. We have about 15 more seconds. Alright, so the captain's going to say land ho, and when that does happen, we get to rub our rock, and then it's RNG part 3. There we go. Land ho. Savior just in case, because you can get caught like that, because you just
Land hoed.
use the rock to teleport, and we're getting extremely unlucky, which just makes sense because I got 2 TPs in a practice run that I did. So it only makes sense that we'd be stuck here for eternity because RNG. There we go. There we're on the island. So that's 1 TP that we need. There's the second one. Now we're
Marathon
on.
rock, man.
Yeah, right. Now we're on the. What's this thing called?
Uh-oh.
Maze thing. Alright, I'm really good at dying here, so expect that. Like that, exactly. If you're just like a few pixels off, too high, too low, whatever, Gwydion apparently loses his footing and falls to his death. That's not how you spell essence. Alright. That was last time we use the flying spell, and now we get to rub our rock again. This time we have to, there we go. That wasn't too bad. We have to get 1 out of 2 specific screens. And then these free phrases, for whatever reason, are impossible for me to type. There we go. So, there's this woman tied up here. Oh no, damsel in distress. About to be sacrificed to this giant 3-headed dragon. So we do the good guy thing and untie girl. And then she jiggles all the way home behind us. Because Allo had a hand in making this game. If you know who that is, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Feel physics, dude.
Alright, and that's the end of 3, so now we're moving on to 4. 4 is in... Oh, right. I forgot. Don't worry. We know how to play video games. Okay, so... This is the first one with mouse added in, rather than just using the keyboard. You get the hybrid where you still have to type out phrases, but also can use the mouse to click places. So it's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. But it's also casually, I'd say it's the best of both worlds. But it's also kind of annoying as far as a speedrun goes. in that you have to be good at typing, and I'm usually not. So what can you do? There are kind of a lot of weights in this game, but they're shorter. Um, this is the original release of the game. It was actually too complex for a lot of people's PCs back in the day. They weren't powerful enough to handle it. This is in the SCI engine, Sierra Creative interpreter. And then there was a sort of remake or demake, I guess, released that was in the AGI engine, which is Adventure Game Interpreter, which was what the previous three games were in. Basically, because people's computers weren't strong enough to handle it, so it's just dumbed down a little bit. Same exact game, runs the same exact way, except there's no mouse integration, so it's all the same. Um, Zipping around, which makes it a fun speedrun, but it's also really, really hard because there's a lot more collision with a lot more things, so all the zip codes are much more complex.
This is the superior version,
Debatable.
hands down.
But the other one has Easter eggs. Ah, bad on my
True.
part. So if Rosella falls like 2 feet, you get dizzy. Don't fall 2 feet. And if you fall like 3 feet, you die, which is a recurring thing in King's Quest. It's interesting though, because like sometimes she'll fall like about her height and like just get dizzy, and sometimes she'll die from it. It's whatever the devs thought was a good idea in that situation. So this is the first big weight. You're gonna notice something really familiar about the inhabitants of this house and how there happens to be 7 of them. And you'll notice throughout all the games and a lot of the previous games, there are a lot of themes that were taken from various other media, whether it be myths, fantasy, lore, Disney, whatever, religion, even. So these guys probably look pretty familiar. In the other games, like Chuck pointed out, there was Dracula, there's King Neptune, dragons and whatnot. Those are obviously common everywhere. There's lots of also recurring um, musical themes that you'll hear. Definitely not stolen from other things. They definitely didn't hear the Smurf theme earlier in both King's Quest, 2 and 3. And you definitely don't hear the Jaws theme in this one. That's definitely not stolen. And that totally wasn't Thriller earlier. What else? I forget what it's called, but like I think it's like Brahms something or another. Whenever you go inside Dracula's castle, there's that typical like da na 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 na, whatever the name of that song is. But yeah, basically Sierra is really really original and should be applauded. And I actually miss them because they make good games.
They're still alive, kind of.
Debatable. Sour Please cameo. Oh yeah, that's another one. You'll see that later in this one. There's a whale. You get swallowed by the whale. Story of Jonas. Time for the little men to head back to the mine to go mine a whole bunch of diamonds.
Should we talk about the lore?
Oh, go for it. Yeah, I totally skipped out on that.
Alrighty. Give me a sec.
Got to bust out his notes.
One sec. Anyways, at the end of King's Quest 3, Alexander goes back, goes to, he finds out who he is, goes back to Daventry, and then both him and his sister stand before their parents, and they're just thrilled to see them. And after all of Daventry has been restored to its former glory post the three-headed dragon's death, because the three-headed dragon, after Gwydion was kidnapped as an infant, took a place above on top the essentially the giant's beanstalk, or that area up there. and was ravaging the land and murdering, requiring a sacrifice of a maiden every year, otherwise it would destroy the land. And of course, at the end was Rosella, who we're playing right now. After that happens and all that's taken care of, Graham says, I've been alive for so long. I've been adventuring for so long. I'm ready to just hang up my adventurer's hat. So what I'm going to do is fling it at both of you, and whichever you can essentially live on my adventuring legacy. So what he does is he grabs his hat, flings it in the air. Both kids go back to try and catch it, and right at that moment, he has a heart attack. So he's laying. That's where this game begins. That he's laying on his deathbed. All of them, Valenice, Rosella, and Alexander, are by his bedside, and Rosella gets overwhelmed with emotions, walks out. The magic mirror shines. She sees a fairy named Janesta. Janesta says, "Hey, my land of I believe it's Colima here, is in peril, and I'm about to die as well. Please come help me. By the way, there's this fruit that grows here that can help your father, but that doesn't matter. Please come save me."
Yo, first try.
And so essentially, she just goes and does that.
Every failed attempt at fishing there is 10 seconds time loss, so that's pretty good. We're getting kind of unlucky with the location of the peacock feather, though. What? Hello? Thank you. Getting peacock blocked. Now, so there's a chance here. Oh, we got lucky again. So there's a chance there you get eaten by a shark. There's a chance there the whale shows up. There's a chance there that just nothing happens and you sit there and you wait forever. The whale actually showed up. And the whale actually showed up pretty quickly, so that's pretty lucky. If you did this as a kid, you probably fell on the tongue a lot because you didn't know that all you had to do is just go up at an angle right there. It's significantly harder in the AGI version because you don't have the mouse. Want to talk about the differences between things you have to type and whatnot? Accepted phrases and what words mean what.
Sure. SCI kind of has an interesting way with the text parser versus the AGI engine. Um, we employ a couple different texts called one's noun stacking and the other one is kind of pronoun replacement. Noun stacking is basically when you use a verb, the syntax of a verb and then a noun. The game takes the verb and of course points that to the noun. However, it always points it to the last noun in the text parser. So if you were put, say, use hat and then use door, or just hit F3, which repeats your last phrase, or space,
Which I only found out like a week
you
ago.
type door after hat, it will always point that verb to that last noun. So we can just save time having to type out extraneous, stuff to save some time and frames. Pronoun replacement is if you used one noun before and say you wanted to use it again and you don't want to say, okay, I want to use the hat, then use the hat again, or I want to use a different verb with it. You can, instead of typing hat, you can start it again and say use it. Of course, it's not just limited to the pronoun it could literally be any pronoun. So you could say make food. Instead of saying make food, you could say like make she. The game will still understand it.
Saw a little bit of use earlier in King's Quest 2, like saying give necklace her, give trident man, rather than saying, oh no. Well, that's not great. Rather than typing out like King Neptune and like Mermaid and whatever, you could just use her and him and stuff like that. I meant to save there too. I usually save at that point because it is really easy to fall in the swamp there. It's also interesting places you can save typing, like one character, or whatever. Like there, I can say play pipe instead of play flute. Obviously, it's really not that big of a deal, but there are optimizations like that all throughout the speedrun. Um, some obviously more useful than others, and like Chuck said, you can use it to replace full words. So like a strategy that he employs is going and getting the board last before you come in here, because the next command that he does is lay board when he's coming through from left to right. So instead he gets to type lay it. So save a few characters there in exchange for having to go back out after getting the bone, which could be worth. It's all really personal preference, honestly. Oh my god. So other nemesis in this game.
Upcoming 2 minutes and 30-second wait as we wait for the ogre to come in.
Yeah. We get to talk about more crap. So now we're trapped in the closet. So we're in the house of the ogre and the ogress. You saw her carrying in a deer carcass when we first came onto the screen earlier. I don't think we've seen the ogre yet. We've been lucky that he hasn't shown up. He can show up on, I think, 2 different screens, and he's just a typical bad guy. If he catches you, he kills you, you're done. Just like all the trolls in the cave, just like the sharks, just like all the enemies from all the previous games as well. So obviously you want to avoid him. There's nothing that you can get to save yourself from him, much like you could get like the shield or the mirror or whatever in the earlier games. And there's an item that you can get later in this one to protect you from some zombies and a mummy and stuff. But there's no defense against the trolls. You just kind of have to be fast or screen them off, go back and forth so that they don't spawn or whatever. And same thing with the ogre. He's not such a big deal, but sometimes escaping the ogre's house can kind of be difficult, just because if you're running on fastest, it's tough to open the door and then like get out. But there's a setup that we use that makes it very, very consistent. Shoutouts to Sleepy Green. That's my sister. So now the ogre is home. The ogress cooked him up some deer carcass, and he's like, "Fee fi fo smell, smell human, whatever." She's like, "Shut up, you're just hungry." So she feeds him. He eats, and then so part of the fetch quest that you're on here is to fetch 3 items, because that's the magic number in King's Quest. You need to fetch 3 items for Lolote, the evil fairy that we saw earlier, and one of them is this magic hen here that lays golden eggs. He stole it, actually, from the good fairy Genesta, so we need to steal it from him to give to Lolote. We find out later that it was Genesta's and not Lolote's, but we don't know any better right now. Ooh. Being a jerk. Alright, so this should work. There we go. So you just line up on the dog, and you go out for free. Alright. And then, so that's the second item returned to Lilith. The first one was the unicorn. The third one, she ends up wanting Pandora's box because she wants, all the evils in the world, etc., etc. And once we do this third quest from her, we will prove that we are, worthy or whatever. We'll find, or she'll trust us and whatnot. So sure, why not? Let's go get the trust of some evil fairy. That just makes sense. In the meantime, I'm gonna go see some ladies that you may recognize from mythology. Oh wow, there's these 3 old women that share one glass eye. How about that? Have you ever heard of that before? So we robbed them. So we got the magic fruit and the obsidian scarab from them. The obsidian scarab is the item that I was talking about that defends you against the zombies and the mummy. If you have those two items in this version, the next time you transition a screen, it instantly turns to nighttime. In the AGI version, it ends up becoming like I think like a 5-minute wait or something like that. There actually is an in-game timer. You don't really know it until you look at the grandfather clock there you see on the right-hand side. You can say see time or like read clock or whatever, and it'll tell you what time of day it is, and it actually has to be either 8 or
That's a low percent.
yeah, low percent where you have to wait out the time. Um, it'll either be I think 8 or 9 o'clock, and in the AGI version it sets it to quarter till instead of just setting it to the exact time in this version. So that's a little bit of a time loss in the other version. Still debatable whether or not which one's faster overall, because there really hasn't been a very optimized run of the AGI version, just because a lot of those zips are really, really complex, and I'm sure they could be made better. What am I doing? Lock it. So another fetch quest. There's 5 ghosts in the ghost house. You have to go and dig up items from their graves to help them, find I don't know, penance or rest or whatever. And we're gonna get lucky here. We did get lucky. You need to give the rattle to the baby, the bag of coins to the miser, the locket to the widow, the medal to the lord, and you get this little toy unicorn for the child, kid, whatever he is, troublemaker. Taunts you and he's a little bit of a jerk. So, funny thing about the toy, it makes for an interesting interaction in the AGI version. Because the interpreter sees the toy also as a unicorn, because it is in fact a unicorn toy, that means that you can then use the phrase like shoot toy, bridle toy, ride toy, and all that stuff instead of using unicorn or horse, because the game sees those two words as being identical and it can't differentiate the actual toy you give to the child from the living unicorn that you have to deal with earlier, so you just get to use toy for the whole thing. A lot of interesting interactions like that. So supposedly this is a famous piece. If anybody knows the name of it, please feel free to shout it out. There's a lot of music taken from other things, as I mentioned earlier. I don't know what it's called, though. Alright, so dealt with all the zombies and ghosts. And so naturally we go into this tomb. There's a mummy down here guarding Pandora's box, because obviously that's all that should separate the world from, all evils. So since we have the Obsidian Scarab, I almost died there. That was almost really bad.
You can open the box, man.
Oh, sure, I'll open the box. Yeah, sounds really fun. Let's see what's in the box. You'll be sorry. Oh look, we unleashed all the evils on the world and killed yourself in the process. Now you're dead. In the AGI version, there's actually like a separate cutscene that you get. It like cuts to a different scene, like a close up and everything. Is it Sandstorm by Darude? It might be. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever heard that song before. So we've done all 3 fetch quests. We've given her everything she ever wanted. Now she's, you know, the sum of all evil and everything. And her son there, Edgar, over on the right, he has become smitten with us, and she says that our reward is to be wed to him. And we're not really keen on that because apparently he's not such a good-looking dude. And naturally, we're royalty. We're a princess. We want only the cream of the crop, right? Even though we're dressed as a peasant girl, just to not attract attention. That's part of the, plot or whatever. Janesta, the good fairy, specifically dressed this down. There's also a funny interaction with the frog. The frog is actually a prince. So you pick up the frog and you can either take the crown from the frog or you can kiss the frog. If you kiss the frog, he turns into a prince and then he sort of turns his nose up at you and he's like, ugh, just a peasant girl, whatever. And he shoos you away or whatever. He's like, whatever, fine, I can do better. And then he gives you the crown saying that he won't need that anymore. And it's kind of ironic because you're actually not a peasant girl and you're in fact a princess and he just doesn't know. But yeah, so we don't really want to get married to Edgar, but he's still a sweet guy, so he gives us this key to break out of this room here. And if I'm good at the game, hopefully this should be quick. The stairs here are infinitely harder on the AGI version, not having the mouse. Ooh, that was very lucky. I probably should have gotten caught there. I don't know about this version, but in AGI there's just straight up 50. There's a straight up 50% chance that that goon just catches you because you have to walk within his sight range to get into that storage room. So there's just straight up 50% chance you get caught there, and if you get caught, that's just it. That's the end. So we got Cupid's bow earlier, and so naturally we decide the right thing to do is to shoot Lilot with a bow from or arrow from Cupid's bow. Not realizing that apparently love can kill. So she's dead, and Edgar comes in and thanks us for killing his mom because that just don't you just love that when some random girl comes and shoots and kills your mother. You'll find out later that that's not actually the case. It's not actually his mom, but that's beside the point. It makes for a good story. So what you're hearing right now is sound glitch, and I've been very fortunate that it hasn't really had a huge impact so far. It is annoying to listen to, but it will prevent other sound cues from happening. So you actually, what we end up having to do is to save. Hold on. There we go, and that's time for this game. So now, nope. Now we're on to 5. If you'll notice, you probably can't read what's going on here unless you're fluent in French. That is because we're playing on the French version, because it is the fastest version that we have available. But anyway, to finish up on 4, the sound glitch, it will prevent like sound cues like the tickle sound on the whale and like opening doors and stuff like that from happening. So what you have to do is, or what I've found that what works for us is saving the game. It somehow like clears up the queue or whatever, so the like point acquired sound that keeps dinging over and over stops playing, and then it ends up playing the next sound that was queued up. So now Rosella went back to Daventry and saved her dad, gave him the magic fruit because that apparently heals heart attacks, and so now we were playing as King Graham again. What has happened since, he was feeling better, so he went out for a walk, and this evil wizard came by and just decided to steal his entire castle with everyone inside of it, including Alexander, Rosella, and his wife Valenice. So this owl comes by and he's like, "Yo, man, like I know where they went. You want to like come with me and stuff, and we can like solve the mystery, gang." So we go, and this is all about. I held enter way too long. All about trying to get your castle back. Um, I'll do the best that I can to try to give you some hints as towards what's going on, because everything's in French, so you can't read it anyway, but you don't really need to read a whole lot. You just kind of get the idea. You go and you fetch things, and then eventually everything works out, and you live happily ever after. But yeah, moral of the story is La Baguette Magique. It's apparently magic wand in French. Baguette can mean a lot of things. So the guy said open sesame. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. It's definitely an original line. Definitely not taken from any other media anywhere. And definitely doesn't have anything to do with a whole bunch of thieves and a whole bunch of treasure. So we are going through the desert right now. You have to go, I think it's something like every 8 screens or something like that. You have to get to an oasis to get water. Unfortunately, because we're playing on the floppy version, we miss out on all the really awesome voice acting. But it is significantly faster to play this version. Even with the copy protection that I might get here, we did. Hold on. EW, I think that's N. No. Okay. J, F, H, K. Yeah, there we go. Second try. First try every time. So there are 4 instances where you can get copy protection. That is the first one. A little bit unlucky that we got it there. There are 3 more, and you can get it at all of them, but I don't think anybody's ever gotten more than 2 in one run. If you don't get one, by the time that you get to the 4th place, you are guaranteed to get it at the 4th place. So basically, you get 4 symbols. They all just equate to letters in the English language, so you just basically have to learn a different alphabet. And I actually made flashcards for myself to drill myself and learn basically another alphabet. Open sesame, he says. Oh no, the staff broke. Heckin' Graham, you did it again. You've ruined everything. Really unfortunate that we miss out on the voice acting, because every time you take water from the oases, the narrator gives you a good dialogue. I don't know that I could do it any justice trying to impersonate her right now, but the line is something along the lines of life-giving water, nectar of the gods. Graham feels his strength replenishing or returning to him or something like that. And it kind of gets drilled into your head after a while, but it's been, I think, something like over a year since I've actually run the CD version, since we found out that the floppy was so much faster. So another thing that's unique about this game, or new to this game, since all the other games, him hop by the way, Frappage. There is no more typing. You can do everything with the mouse. It is faster though to do some things with the keyboard, specifically using enter. Enter is equivalent to clicking. It's not any different, but you can hold enter and it'll like spam click as fast as it can. You can also use the insert key to toggle between walk and whatever your most recent action was, whether it's the hand or the eye talking or an object, and extrapolating on that. So there's no more typing like look around or whatever. Instead, you actually have an eye that you can use and click on, some object, and it's exactly equivalent. There's also a hand to interact with things like touching things, moving things, or whatever. You'll usually use that to like pick stuff up. But further, you can also use those commands within your menu, like I saw I just did right there. I used the hand on the bag to open the bag, and there were a whole bunch of emeralds in it. This is another place where it's really unfortunate that we miss out on the voice acting, because it's really entertaining. Honestly, look up a run, one of our runs or something, or like a long play or something, because this guy right here, Rocky, has got a pretty good voice actor. And Sierra actually, they had to shell out some pretty good money, honestly, because they got some pretty reputable voice actors, specifically for six. They actually got, I think, like three or four people who ended up previously or afterwards working on projects with Disney. So I mean, they weren't, like nobodies. Uh, One of them specifically being the man who voiced Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. There's another guy whose name's escaping me right now, but he basically does like a cameo in essentially like every Disney animated movie. Really, really popular guy. If you go to like IMDb or whatever, you can look up the games and you'll see like all the voice actors. In this one though, and I think in 6 as well, they just basically used like a lot of people from like the studio. The brainchild of all of these games is a woman named Roberta Williams, and she actually ended up sticking herself in the games in a couple different fashions. Um, in 4, she's supposedly like the narrator. There's no dialogue in that one, but she'll show up and say, like, oh, like you died, whatever. Thanks for buying my game. Um, but she also shows up in the ghost house. Supposedly, the portrait in like the, I don't know, study or whatever it is supposed to be Roberta, and she like points to the hidden room in the side or whatever. So she's, leading adventurers on their way. Um, there was some other thing that I was reading, something to do with like how she's within the King's Quest universe and like communes with someone who's like the record keeper essentially. I don't know, it's really weird. Look it up if you're interested. But she voice acts for I think at least like 3 different roles in this game, and her husband Ken, I believe, does as well. They basically ran the company back in its heyday. Um, and I mean, these games were really, really popular, actually. At the peak, I think in 1995, 1996, I don't remember which, King's Quest was the best-selling PC game series. So, I mean, they may not be entirely too popular today, but back in the day, they were pretty big games. Also, shoutouts to Dose 350, legit. Spaghetti, my man. Alright, so incoming town music, it's horrible and awful, and I'm sorry for it. It's really, really loud. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. It's whatever. Funny story, that guy in the tailor shop there, he is behind the curtain in um, the CD talkie version, but for whatever reason, he's just hanging out there in all his glory in the floppy version. Alright, so we're almost done in town here, and then we get to go embark in the deeper realms of this land. That kid's a little jerk, by the way. He keeps putting his fingers in the pie. His mom tells him not to. Here's the last of the pies. Another voice line that's eternally stuck in my head. Speaking of voice lines that are eternally stuck in my head, coming up is my absolute favorite one. I don't know exactly how it translates from French, but this guy right here, the mob boss or whatever he is, he says that, which apparently means rub him out. It just means, knock him out like that. Absolute favorite line. It's, I don't know. Sad that we don't get all the voice acting, but gotta go fast. Doesn't translate to anything in French. That's really unfortunate. What on earth were they doing? Why'd they even put that in? Whatever. So, we saved the rat earlier, the rat saves us. A life for a life. And then we just steal a leg of ham or something like that from them because wasn't enough insult to injury. Music is the solution to a lot of the puzzles in these games. Sometimes multiple times within one game. So you use the tambourine on this rattlesnake here, and apparently it's really spooky to him. So he just kind of like, hacks off. Gonna make a save here just in case, because sometimes this doesn't work. Also really funny if you walk off the cliff in the CD version, Graham screams really loud. Here's another chance for copy protection. Not there. Okay. The last one will be when we get on the boat. It's not nearly as long of a boat ride as the other one, so you don't have to worry about that. There's also a really funny, they call it an Easter egg, but I think it's a glitch. Right after this, so you ride the sled. We'll see if I can get lucky or not. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you can make it through without crashing. Ah, no, I messed up. Hacking RNG, man. Just kidding, it always crashes. But so the sled crashes, and after the sled crashes, if you use the cape that you're wearing on the sled, you somehow appear in the boat that you use later. You just like zoom by from right to left, and the sea monster shows up and just sort of like knocks you out of the boat and off the cliff, and you get a special text box. I'm not sure what it says. It's in French. It's only on the floppy version, and Sierra calls it a Easter egg. I'm not really sure that I agree with that. I think it's just a glitch that they didn't know what to do with. But again, time willing, I can show you guys that later, hopefully. Oh yeah, also the names are really cute in this game. So this is Queen Isabella. The ant hill that we saved earlier, the king of the ants, is King Antony. And then when we reached our hand into the tree to save it from the bear, that was saving Queen Beatrix, because obviously you have to have puns on all your names. The bear will actually make a semi-sorta reappearance cameo type thing later. In King's Quest VI, there is a pawn shop, and in the pawn shop, supposedly there is an item from each of the prior games in the pawn shop, and the item from this game, there may be more than one, I'm not sure. Supposedly there's one of each, is the bear. There's a full-size bear just hanging out in there. There are also some other items that you may notice from other media as well. It's totally discreet. Hello, get the thing. Thank you. So we gave that half-eaten leg of ham that we had already chowed down on to the, I think it's an eagle in this game. Yeah, and then he's like, oh man, thanks for that half of that leg. I'll come save you from this two-headed bird. Because, that's all it takes, I guess, is sloppy seconds to get somebody's good favor. So this coming up here is the last chance for copy protection. Hopefully we don't get any. It's not too bad anymore, but back before I memorized it, it'd be easily like a 15-second time loss. Alright. So we're on a boat. Not nearly as bad of a boat ride as before. Just kind of sailing off into nowhere. We end up going to this island with a whole bunch of harpies. And one of the harpies is one of the characters that are good old Roberta Williams voice acts for, again in the CD version, not in this one. If you don't like naked women, don't look. Obviously really high resolution. Also don't look here. This shading really bothers me. It's like they just like gave up on this corner right here and just like made it all black. Kind of makes me mad. Again, music is the solution. Play the harp and then they get distracted and they steal the harp instead of eating you. That's what they were going to do anyway. They were talking about eating you and which one of them was going to eat you. Yeah, Monka TOS. And so they say, what's he doing? The other one says, I don't know, but I want it. And that's not fair, blah, blah, blah. So, successfully distracted them. I don't know what they did exactly, but they beat up Cedric, I guess, who is our little owl buddy. I use buddy in lots and lots of quotation marks. I kind of hate him because he's just purely time loss and a really annoying character. Again, he's the one good reason that we're not using the CD talkie version, because it's obnoxious to listen to. Another thing about Cedric, so the snake that we saw earlier, he likes to warn you that it's a poisonous snake. Yeah, poisonous snake. If you know the difference between poisonous and venomous. So this is the whole reason we run on the floppy version right there. You get to skip that entire cutscene. Don't know how long it is, but it's way too long, and you don't have to do anything. All you do is click skip, and you're out of there. The CD version also has some skips to them, but they're really wonky. It's basically, it's like a lotto. You mash like right and left click a whole lot during some talking cutscenes, and either you skip them or you don't. Kind of need to focus here. Southwest, north, west. Okay. Another labyrinth you have to have memorized. You'll go back through here later, but you'll have an escort with you, which is kind of nice. In the CD version, she actually causes you time loss, but in this version, it's okay to follow her. Hello? Graham, get off the wall. There's an alternate strategy you can do here that I actually do in my world record run, but it's really risky and really not marathon safe. I'll explain it later. So now we want to get caught by the blue beast. If you're really lucky, he showed up in this hallway. He did not show up for us. So we just go and we wait here. He'll usually show up like over here. Totally confirmation bias. Oh, that actually wasn't so bad. But it seems like he'll show up in, I don't know, the first 5-10 seconds or so. And if he doesn't, it's forever. It feels like you have to wait for so long. So usually I'll wait 5 or 10 seconds or so, and then I'll screen off and back on. That was actually a pretty good wait. That wasn't too long. So for the second time in one game, Rat gives you a hint, helps you out, crawls into that hole, so it tells you, hey, maybe there's something in that hole. And it was cheese. You need the cheese for later because things make sense in this game. You'll get what I'm talking about later. But so yeah, we're trapped in jail. Oh, wait a minute. So that's Kasima. That's the girl that we gave the bracelet to earlier. She ends up being really important for more reasons than just saving our life right here. I used to have this path memorized. I've kind of got most of it still, but you don't have to have it memorized when she walks in front of you the whole time, so kind of just let that one slip. Can only remember so much. My small brain. Sometimes Blue Beast shows up there. He's really tricky when he does. You have to be on your toes. That was really fast, actually. This is really good. I knew it. Okay, so the cat was there. We don't want the cat to be there. That would be a 30-second time loss for dealing with the cat there, as opposed to in this next room. So I'm really glad I saved there. Okay, so this is what we want. Throw the fish to the cat. And then the cat is in the bag, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly. So I hope you study these pages. They're very important. I hope you can read everything and it makes sense. There will be a test later. It's very, very important. And so now we wait for a minute and a half. Good opportunity to me explain the alternate strategy. So when we first arrived on the island, I got a fish off the shore. I got the peas coming out of the labyrinth, the bag of peas. And then when it got captured, came back out of the labyrinth. And then we had to wait for the blue beast, use the bag of peas on the blue beast. He fell, whatever. That's just to empty the bag. Then you need to get the cat in the bedroom specifically. Throw the fish to distract the cat, and then bag up the cat. And that will turn this wait into a minute and a half. Otherwise, the other option is what we call the YOLO strat, is to not get the peas, not get the fish, not wait for the blue beast, and just hope that you don't run into the blue beast, you don't run into the cat, because if you run into the cat and don't deal with him, the evil wizard Mordak will come and kill you. You also have to hope that Mordak isn't in the bedroom, because if he's in there, he'll just kill you. But that turns this wait into a 2-minute wait. So it's a lot. We're still debating whether or not it's worth going for, because it is really, really risky. It just straight up kills your run. There's really no coming back from it. Instead of just getting a longer wait, you just die. It all depends on how long you have to wait for the second blue beast encounter. If he's relatively quick, it could probably be even or maybe even faster, just because it does turn that wait that we just did into a minute and a half instead of 2 minutes. But as it is, the current record does do the YOLO strat, so who knows what the meta is going to be going down the line. So when I didn't mean to say, but that's fine. We'll take that. I was talking about the cheese earlier because everything makes sense. You obviously need to put moldy cheese into this machine that you have no idea what it does. With Mordak's wand, which is all powered up and sparkly, and the wand that Crispin, who is this old wizard from the beginning of the game that you guys never even saw. Because obviously, if you put cheese in this machine, that transfers the power from one wand to the other. Because, that's just logical. That just makes sense. That's something that Graham would totally know. It's really a shame you guys miss, all the lore from the, intro or prologue or whatever to all the games, and everything that happens after you finish all the games, because all the timing for the games ends on the last available action, the last input. So there's always, story that happens afterwards, like Chuck explained at the end of 3. Graham had, his heart attack deal or whatever, and then, in the beginning of 4, Rosella sees the good fairy Genesta in the mirror and all that stuff, and you guys miss all that stuff, so it's really hard to get a good grasp of what's going on, but doing my best. If you have any questions, obviously keep asking. Chuck will tell you whatever's going on. So Cedric just got killed, but that's not a big deal because we don't really like him. And this guy turns into I don't know, flying praying mantis type dragonfly thing, not really sure what it is. So obviously to counter that, you turn into a tiger because rock paper scissors. So then he turns into a real dragon because sure. So obviously rabbit beats dragon, that just makes sense. N-A-aim, by the way. And he insults you in French. He calls you a swine. So he turns into a cobra. And then if you've ever seen Rikki Tikki Tavi, you know the cobra's, nemesis or whatever is the mongoose. And then he's like, alright, well, flame on. And we say, nah, man. So that's the end of that game. Close, please. Thank you. Okay, so...
Nice run, dude.
Thanks, man. It actually went really, really well. The blue beasts were good. So now this is arguably the pinnacle of King's Quest, in my opinion. Some people would disagree, Chuck, but I think this hits all the high notes in terms of adventure games, and I don't know, it's a good one. There's two very different ways you can go about everything. Oh my goodness, this mouse is so sensitive in this window. Hold on here. Chuck, if you want to explain zips real quick, that'd be great. Oh my god, the sensitivity. Let's fix this here. Okay.
Be happy to. This game had, unlike King's Quest V, which is a pretty leisurely paced game, King's Quest VI is pretty. It kind of goes back to how the first couple games work, but it's interesting. Alexander kind of moves, as you can see here, in certain angles. I call it a 15-degree angle. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't used a protractor yet. He just shoots up at what may as well be like a single frame movement. So the whole run, we're going to be seeing him basically ping-ponging up and down through certain areas, trying to optimize using that as much as possible. There's certain things that work with that, so to speak. If you zip, we call it zipping because it's just kind of a catch-all term that we've been using for these fast movements throughout this run. If you zip onto a screen and then start using objects or inventory on objects, what Alexander will do is basically zip, and he will zip the movement and complete that inventory object puzzle or acquisition of item or whatever very, very quickly. Another thing that goes along with that is with certain scenes that play out when you zip, we activate the zip mode. Certain animations from NPCs will also play out very quickly. It's a very interesting mechanic, and truth be told, nobody that we know that has done any science with this game knows why it works that way. It's just kind of a quirk of the engine.
So this is the first game that actually has voiceover narration, and it's wonderful. Like I was saying, there actually are some pretty predominant voice actors in this. You may recognize their voices as we get to that. But every time you hear the narrator say Alexander, that's just me being bad. Feel free to point it out. My chat likes to do that to me all the time. Basically, you don't want to hear him say it ever, but every time you do like any kind of action, every time you try to like teleport between islands using the map, he'll say Alexander takes out his magic map, and then whenever you actually choose a place to go, he'll say Alexander feels a strange pulling sensation. So you'll just hear that over and over and over again if you're not skipping the dialogue, I guess. So every time you hear him say Alexander, that's me being bad. And it happens a lot. Yeah, strange pulling sensation. Everyone's favorite, right? Ideally, that's more what it should sound like. You should just get like a little clip of it, because it does start like right away as soon as you do an action.
The min. Would you?
That's another weird perk or quirk, I guess, of DOSBox. If you noticed, Alexander did like a little 360 going through the pawn shop. Not really sure why it happens in some places. That's one place where it does happen a couple of times.
Alexander.
Yeah, it's not really clear to me why, but there's another interesting place when it happens later, which is kind of cool. Call it the Michael Jackson, because you do a moonwalk to get to it first. Sour please, by the way.
I believe it has something to do with the cycle speed. Because normally what we would usually do is run this on a scum VM, but there's some speed issues with that on certain computers, because it's all tied, I believe, completely to the CPU speed. These old archaic games, it's hard to tell unless you actually understand the hardware. But for some people, they had trouble in certain sections, so we switched back to DOSBox because it kind of limits it.
I didn't test it on this PC, but the practice PC had no problem with it, so hopefully this one doesn't either.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, right. Alright. Getting good zips. Happy with that. I did not get them in my practice run. So you go between the 4 aisles of the green aisles. Well, the 4 that you know of. This is the section right here. You moonwalk. You spin in a circle. I don't know. I
Shout
love
out
it.
to Jackie Joe for finding this one.
Yeah. But yeah, so Kasima, the girl from the dungeon or whatever, from 5 that helped out Graham, at the end of that one, obviously everyone from the Graham family was rescued, and so Alexander immediately became smitten with this beautiful girl, Kasima, who was the, she was like in the dungeon or whatever. So this is her like territory or whatever, her kingdom, and so Alexander goes on this quest to go find her because he's like in love with her and he's drawn to her or whatever. I think he like sees her or like her place like in the mirror or whatever. Again, plot objects, devices or whatever from 1 making a return throughout the series, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, basically he just falls like in love with this girl that he met for like 10 seconds, and the whole kingdom is in like there we go, I missed one. So that's the whoa wait a minute. That's just because I didn't click because I'm bad. I don't remember. I did that wrong. That's the wrong one. Do this. I always get the first and second, I guess second and fourth both have that same layout, and I always get them confused. But so Alexander is instantly smitten with Kasima, and he goes and seeks her out, and the Green Isles are all in disarray because this Vizier Al-Hazred has basically staged a coup, and it's up to Alexander to figure everything out, save the castle, save the kingdom. But my favorite island is the one that we just went through already with the garden and all that stuff. I think it's the Garden of Puns. It's called the Isle of Wonder. It looks like a comma, or I guess an apostrophe, on its side. And the whole thing is just filled with all this witty humor. The garden has snapdragons, wallflowers, there's a hole in the wall. I think it's baby's breath. I'm not sure what or Cabbage Patch Kids maybe. what else? Rotten tomato, iceberg lettuce, sour grapes. It's just full of puns, and I love it. And then there's another screen that you don't see in
The stone.
this category, just because there's nothing that you need from it in any percents. But in the 100% category, there's I don't know what it is. It's a pile of a bunch of books and stuff, and there's a bookworm there, and he's missing his dangling participle, and there's also there's a black widow there who's like actually a spider, but he also has a couple of I don't know other random characters with him being also literary devices. One of them being Diphthong, and the other one is help me, Chuck. I can't remember.
I'm drawing up much of a blank as you are.
Yeah, the Diphthong's the one that I remember. They both use the same literary devices. It might be like onomatopoeia or whatever, something like that. But they both only talk in their literary devices, just like the
Let's go with that.
dangling participle. Also, only like you like get him on your side or whatever by like using a dangling participle, I guess. Oh, we never mentioned, by the way, that is the genie, the evil genie. I guess he's not really evil, but he's genie of the evil vizier. So anytime you see a character with a glinting gold eye like that, that is the genie. He's a shapeshifter.
Alexander.
And he'll turn into all sorts of various things. Basically, he's just trying to get you to kill yourself. He wanted to get you to eat those berries there, which are poisonous. He pretends to eat them, and then he flies. Earlier on, the first time you see him is, I guess, technically in the pawn shop if you go there first. I don't know if he's in there first, actually. When you go to the ferry, he's the little boy that tries to get you to jump in the water, which ends up killing you if you do. He was the guy on the opposite side of the garden wall. If you actually go on the opposite side, the two stone statues will kill you. And he shows up various places throughout all the islands. So we climbed up the Cliffs of Logic up to the Kingdom of the Winged Ones, who, again, have sacrificed their daughter to some evil being, and it's up to Alexander to rescue it. Basically, they take a lot of the same plot points and themes and whatever from King's Quest III, which was Alexander's first game, and put them in this one again, which is okay. I mean, 3 was an interesting game. So here is where I'll try to make the most use out of zips. You can do a lot of them here. This one you have to walk on specific tiles, or you get Indiana Jones style shot by a whole bunch of poison darts. But every time you zip off of a screen onto another screen, like Chuck was saying, it will like zip you through the opening of that screen. We actually got like all of them in the beginning, so that's really good. This one's kind of more important because it zips you to the center of the room, and then it also zips you over to the torch over here when you turn on the light. So that's probably the most important of the ones in the beginning. All the other ones you can kind of take it or leave it. It's not really too much to save just because you don't really move that far. But that one's pretty good. There's another good one later as well. I'm getting a little ahead of myself on those two. Dang. Jinxed myself. Missed all those. Those two are easy. And then this guy. Alright, we got that one. That one's important because you end up using the hole in the wall here and you zip straight to the hole in the wall. As opposed to doing like a slow walk all the way across. So, a few more. Again, you just have to memorize the path through the catacombs here. Same sort of idea as before. The ones horizontally are kind of difficult. The ones vertical are basically free.
Alexander.
So, what do you know? A labyrinth with a minotaur inside of it. Definitely not heard of that anywhere in mythology at all. That's definitely not taken straight from Greek/Roman mythology. hard to notice there, but you do want to zip into that room because then it makes you zip all the way out and do everything else as fast as you can. Hey, look, an animal with a shining, glinting golden eye. Wonder what's up with that. Interesting. Killed an endangered species. Hey man, he just fell into the fire. I didn't kill him. He could still be alive down there. Just very badly burned. And so we rescue the daughter of the Winged Ones, their princess, so we get to go see another oracle where it tells us something about a girl, again, that we have to save, again. Also, you get a vial full of water, again. Actually, I don't know if you do in the first one. I forget. But so now, magically, there's this new island on your map. How about that? The Isle of Mists, which has a whole 3 screens, and you only see 2 of them in any percent. That's okay. It's actually kind of important in Hundo, and it actually has another character who is voiced by the same guy who did Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. I just really like his voice. I think he voices 3 characters in this game. Get the rose, my lord. You actually don't get to even hear probably the best voice in this game, which is Jollo. I guess he's like a court jester or something like that. You don't get to hear him in this version just because you never really run into him. If you go through the entire like epilogue and everything, he does get some voice lines, but we won't be able to watch that because we still have one more game to play. Alright, so we went to the Isle of the Beast, we talked to the Beast, and he's looking for a beauty.
Really?
A beauty? A beast? Yeah, I don't know, that sounds like original content to me. I've definitely never heard of that anywhere before. Oh, what do you know? He turns back into a man. Huh. How about that? He's actually like royalty. Surprising. Oh, look, another animal with a glinting eye. How about that? Really not sure what that is. It's supposed to be like a ferret or something. I don't know. Anyway. So, nearing the end of this one. Also, funny little tidbit, I guess. There was a hunter's lamp hanging over the boiling pond there. You get the lamp to trade to one of the guys in town. There's an old man in the town over there. And he says, old lamps for new, but it definitely does not sound like that. It's an otter. Maybe. So naturally, the only way to get in the castle is to cross-dress. So that's what we do. Just dress up as a woman because this is a very progressive game for the 90s. Don't think too much. And then this guy yells at you. He's like, "Hey, woman, go do your job." You're like, okay. So we used to think that this next section here was RNG, but I think with proper setup, it's hundo, and you can't fail it. As long as you get a input in there early enough that you can place the Mockingbird before the guards turn around, you're fine. Otherwise, they will catch you, and that's GG. Your other option is waiting for them to go all the way down the hall and back, which takes about a gazillion years. Maybe an underestimate, could be longer. So This is Al-Hazred's, the evil vizier's bedroom, and we go in there and get his manifesto, which basically says, I'm a bad man, I did all these bad things, I killed people, I stole things, and so now the idea is to expose him.
The guard dog.
I messed this up the other day, so we'll see. So this is one of the other characters voiced by Frollo. Unfortunately, you're going to hear him because listening to dialogue is slow. But he's basically like an anthropomorphic collie.
The wizard.
He just kind of like growls at you. So... Oh no, Casima's gonna marry the evil vizier. Wait a minute, the eyes are glinting. Something's wrong here. Oh wait, it's the genie. So the whole time, Al-Hazred was planning to marry Casima, or his genie disguised as Casima, and then just murder her, so that he could steal the kingdom. Earlier on, you found out that the genie is, I don't know, addicted or whatever to mint. He really likes mint. He takes a mint from the jar in the pawn shop and then exhibits some behavior that may indicate that he's intoxicated. So you get that hint, and then you find a little mint leaf there. You give him the mint leaf, he casts the spell, and it blows back on himself. And then you take this sword that is obviously way too large and unwieldy for Alexander. Take some punches to the face, but it's alright because Casima's just jerking off in the corner. You just gotta wait for her to finish, it's fine. She's undoing her binds. I don't really know how many times he's going to drop this sword, but anyway. Time for this game is, again, on the last input when you bop the guy in the head. Right there. So now we start up 7. Looks like, barring any absurd catastrophes, we should be under estimate, so that's cool. Start a new game. Let's go with NASA. That's a good file name. Alright, this game is actually kind of loud. Might turn that down when I get a chance on a cutscene somewhere. If I can. So this game sort of takes a departure from the rest of the King's Quest series and doesn't really play the same as the rest of them, doesn't really look the same as the rest of them. A little trick here, let's see if I can get it. Hey, we did. So there's a second desert scene up there you have to climb up. If you mash really fast, sometimes you skip it. So we skipped it. We got lucky, boys. Apparently I can't click on the hand, though. Thank you. Saves a handful of seconds, so obviously this is world record pace, and you should all get your poggers out now. Yeah, this game, if you know who Don Bluth is, if you know what the Black Cauldron is, it has a very, as I would say, Don Bluthian feel to it. It really looks like his art style. Purely coincidental. He didn't actually work on this. I think just because Sierra also made a Black Cauldron video game, maybe this is like an homage to him, but it's definitely like his style art. Not sure how the audio levels are, but enjoy the clicking ASMR if you can hear me clicking my mouse, because there is a lot of it in this game. First things first, the Kangaroo Rat here, he always rhymes, and you want to give him, trade a whole bunch of items to him. He'll always trade you a rhyming item. Very interesting. You can try to trade him anything. It's always interesting the things that he says that he's gonna, that he offers to you or whatever. But you only end up trading him 2 things actually, because there are only 2 things that are useful. So avoiding the holes there, avoiding raspberries from the jackrabbit. We did it. Maybe like a, I don't know, 5-second loss or something every time he gives you one. So you give him his glasses because he was blind before. You had to get the glasses back from the jackrabbit. Then you give him the seed for the bead. And we'll trade with him one other time later. Plug your ears. This is very loud and annoying. This is Scorpion that's just a pain in the butt. Nothing I can really do about it. You have to go through here. You have to solve this puzzle. This game is very linear. You don't really have a whole lot of options in terms of alternate strategies, alternate ways to solve puzzles. Whereas in King's Quest VI, there's at least 2 ways to do almost everything, which is something that I really personally like about the game. Hello, click. There are 2 ways to get into the castle. There's 2 ways to deal with the genie. There's 2 ways to deal with everything, basically. And there's a whole other half to the game that you guys didn't even see. Most of the games, except for this one, have a scoring system. And you actually only end up getting half of the points. You quite literally only see half the game. There's an entire area, the Land of the Dead, or the Realm of the Dead, I'm not sure, that you don't even end up exploring just because you don't need to go there in any percent, just because it's faster not to. But unfortunately, you do miss out on some of the coolest characters. So this game, obviously we're playing as Valenice right now, and you switch between Valenice and Rosella every other chapter. There are 6 chapters, and that is the first one. So, just like how Alexander was coming of age and had to find a woman or whatever, now Rosella is, I think, like 20 or something like that, and she needs to, you know, find a man or whatever. Everyone says that she needs to like settle down and stuff, and she's not ready. She doesn't want to. So she, you know, pulls like a Alice in Wonderland basically, and goes and follows like a hummingbird or something into like some pond. She falls into the pond, and it's basically Alice in Wonderland. So she gets pulled in, and then no spoilers, but she does exactly what she said she didn't want to do by the end of the game. Getting some Dark Crystal vibes. That just makes sense, right? This is indeed the 7th one, yes. There's not a whole lot of tech, not a whole lot of skips and whatnot. There are some, but for the most part, it's really just... It's a lot of good mouse movement, which I don't always have. A lot of knowing where to go and just mashing right and left click. You can sort of see sometimes, if you know what to look for, you can sort of see that Rosella will sort of like bump forward a little bit. That's with every time that I right click, she'll sort of like move forward a little bit more, as opposed to just left clicking and walking in some certain direction. So you kind of want to like alternate right left clicking. You can actually use that sort of like bump forward that you get to do some interesting out of bounds. The only useful ones are in this category. The only useful ones that we actually do RTA are in this category, or this chapter rather. There's only one category to this game because, like I said, it's so linear. There really isn't 100%. There's really no other way to get through the game. There's just the one route. So trick here called Fast Spoon. I might have missed it just because I missed a few clicks there. Not sure. Oh, definitely missed it. Alright. I grabbed the mold and put it back down. So basically what happens is the animation of getting the spoon out of the bucket there is tied to the animation of the fire. And for whatever reason, it makes you get the spoon faster, but because I misclicked there, I missed that one. Oh well. here's another good one. Hopefully I get this. I did not. Oh well. I'll have another chance at it later, but this one's kind of necessary. Easy out of bounds. Totally intended. That saves, I don't even know, at least a good 30 seconds, because that saves you having to get a couple different items. And let's see, what do you have to do? You have to get the shield from like that main foyer atrium area. Then you have to look at the shield in the little like item viewer, and easy out of bounds, by the way. And then take it apart. You have to take this like spike out of the shield. And then you put the shield on the cart there in the background, and it functions as a wheel. You use the spike to get it in place, and then you have to ride the cart down to knock the troll into the lava. So that's mine. Yeah, thank you. Alright. Let's see, we'll get a second attempt here. Hopefully this works. No, apparently, because I'm bad. I just had bad cursor positioning. All you really do there is you just hold your cursor at like the left side of the bottom of the stairs. And I didn't line up for that right. There we go. Have to go out of bounds to actually get back through there. There's no option other than just going through the slow way again. But yeah, doing the zip across the main foyer area is basically just having your cursor in the right position and mashing. So, didn't quite get it there, no big deal, really not a huge loss. There's another one though coming up that is considerably more important. So we're gonna hope that I get that one, because I didn't actually practice this game a whole lot. For whatever reason, you can only go right to left twice. It just so happens that you only need to go right to left twice. If you try to go again, he'll grab you and he'll throw you into the lava. So we have exactly as many chances as we need. So hopefully I can do these fast. If you dismiss the text, or dialogue, I guess, I missed that one. If you dismiss the dialogue quickly and then grab the item and then give it to her, it'll save you from going back up to that like upper view or whatever. So we've been turned back into a princess. When we got pulled through that like puddle or whatever it was, we got turned into a troll because I don't know why, but also Valenice didn't because I also don't know why. This game likes crashing, so we might get one here, hopefully not. Really, it seems like, I don't know why, but I am the like most prone to the crashes in this community. Community of players. I seem to get them in all kinds of places where no one else does. But luckily we didn't get that one. There's at least one more place that's kind of prone to it. But hopefully we can get through that no problem. Alright, so here it is. Make a bookmark, keep playing, and then just mash. And then you skip that, because this game makes sense. I don't know what that saves. It's got to be like 60 seconds or something. You're supposed to use the little rat here. You're supposed to try to like walk down through that area where I did, and then Militia will come out and like try to like, I don't know, kill you or whatever. And use the rat to spook her away. So we did, I don't know, a little bit more than half of the tricks there, but that's really like at least 90% of the technical parts of this game. The rest is just all up to RNG. That's really all the execution stuff. In terms of tricks, there's one more clip, but nobody really does it. It saves just about nothing, and it's really, really hard to get. So I probably won't go for it. Other than that, the game's mostly an auto-scroller, with some RNG segments. So, Chuck, if you ever want to chime in and talk about how much you love this game and why it's your favorite and the best King's Quest ever, go for it. I think I'm seeing a little bit in him chat talking about how this game was created in a little bit of a house divided. It is Roberta Williams' King's Quest VII, but the studio was under a little bit of duress, I guess. There was a bit of separation and whatnot, and that's why King's Quest VIII wasn't really King's Quest VIII and definitely sucked. Mask of Eternity. It's not a part of.
Eternity is amazing.
Oh man, they really tried to go a different way with Mask of Eternity. They again just tried to push the envelope even more, maybe too far this time. It basically looks like an Elder Scrolls game. It's actually 3D with a third-person camera and everything. It's, I don't know, not great, IMO. Yeah, we got the fast, what you call it? Tarp or whatever.
Tomb Raider ripoff. A lot of games got like that.
Yeah, basically. And what's so weird is it's so disconnected from the rest of like the King's Quest universe or whatever. It's like hundreds of years later after like Graham Valanice, like all of them are all gone. So, I don't know, it's so like detached. Just like doesn't feel right. A lot of people refuse to acknowledge its existence. And then there was at least one attempt at a fan-made King's Quest IX, which is very, 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 very loosely even affiliated with King's Quest because it was completely fan-made Silver
It
Lining.
actually succeeded. It's called the Silver Lining, done by Phoenix Online Studios.
I don't know about succeeded. Shoutouts to Old School, that's my dad.
It tells, I mean, for what I've played of it.
So basically, everything in this area of the game, it's kind of weird. You end up doing like a high five trading places with Rosella. Valanice goes through her whole little ordeal here, and then you end up going to another area where Rosella is, and you basically give each other a high five, pass each other back and forth. Kind of confusing on like the timeline, the way things work out, but you never actually end up running into each other again until the end of the game. So this back here is the faux shop, as you can tell by the spelling. It's meant to mean fake, and so they give you a hint that you have to take everything in the faux shop with a grain of salt. So you actually can't enter the door unless you eat the salt there.
Would I?
Just a couple funny trades in there that you make. So now we have to go back to our good buddy the Kangaroo Rat, who likes to do rhymes, treatise rhyming things. So we're gonna give him a book, B-O-O-K. I want to see all your best guesses in chat what he gives us in exchange. Hook? Actually, very close. Ankle. Yes, that definitely rhymes with book. You hit the head on the nail. hug. I wish. No, that's not what I wanted. Too far down. Too far down, trying to avoid the raspberries. That's okay though. A rook from chess. Hook was closer. He calls it a crook. Book for a crook. Sickle, not far off. So we rescued a little hummingbird earlier, and in exchange they give us this nectar. You end up using the nectar to restore the river, but it's a time loss if we do it now, just because it makes it. We have to go around a little bit more, so it's just faster to do it later rather than now. Just don't be an idiot like me and don't forget to do it. Rhymes are definitely hard. Alright. So, obviously this is the moon. The moon fell out of the sky, so we pull it out with our crook and then, of course, drop it in there because naturally you can't hold on to two things at once. And they're like, hey man, you stole the moon. You're in trouble. By the way, that's the end of the chapter. Nice cliffhanger there, so we go back to Rosella, chapter 4. I have not been to the bomb part yet, that's not for a while. So now we are, I believe, in Ooga Booga, I think what it's called. Talk to this guy for like 10 hours, and then we do some RNG stuff. So you have to talk to this guy 3 separate times. You just have to click a lot to dismiss any dialogue, because he measures you apparently for a grave, and then he shows you this digging machine that he has and how he needs to fix it. And then I don't even remember what the last dialogue is, but he just basically shrugs at you, and then you go save his friend. Wow, dead people are slow. How about that? Alright, so there's 2 kids. Supposedly they're very heavily influenced. So that's 1, 2. Not getting very lucky here. 3. Okay, 3's not bad just because pumpkins are relatively quick to cycle. Getting more dogs is really not good. But there's a couple kids who have this little hangout in this pumpkin. They're basically just ruffians, and they definitely have elements of various other characters, sort of like Simpsons-esque, sort of like the kids from, what is it, Nightmare Before Christmas. The one kid actually is supposedly, he like takes elements from Charlie Brown, purely like in his attire. They make some sort of nod to him. I forget why, but yeah, he's meant to evoke Charlie Brown in some ways, just basically the stripe on his shirt. So we give the doc a spine, because apparently he had no spine before. I'm sorry, say again?
And Bartson.
Oh, yeah,
The other
that's,
kid.
yeah.
Or that kid.
Right. So we want to give them this weird monster pet in exchange for this rat that they were playing with, because this rat is the gravedigger's like friend or whatever, and he needs the rat in order to fix his digging machine. And then he gives us this whistle to summon it later when we need it. And for saving the cat, we get an extra life, because everyone knows that cats have 9 lives. This kid has a really good, like, evil laugh. I forget who, I think that character is voiced by someone else famous. I think like the woman that did like Tommy Pickles or something. Some other famous role. Oh no, I didn't look. I'm dumb. I forgot. I was reading chat. So we got boogied because I'm dumb and wasn't paying attention. So the kids were doing this rhyme before when we gave them the pet. It basically tells you that Boogie's there or he's not there based upon whether or not this stick right here is facing up or down. I forgot to look because I wasn't paying attention. You want the stick to be down.
That guy.
Apparently I was standing in the wrong spot, so I got grabbed by a zombie hand, which is really dumb. Can that not happen again? Thanks. Okay. Game makes sense.
Right.
So Boogie's not home, so naturally we send this guy's digging machine to excavate it, because obviously why wouldn't you want to dig up essentially, I don't know, a demon's house or whatever covered up by a bunch of bones. Also that you can jump inside. Hello? Did I miss? What? Okay. That was weird. So more story. You were abducted. Rosella was abducted into that like troll world or whatever. The Troll King apparently has gone missing, and the one that's there now is an imposter. And so it's up to you to go find him. Apparently he's been here in Ooga Booga Land.
Don't.
I guess you get some hint from somewhere. It's been so long since I've casually played this game, I don't really remember anymore. You get some hint from somewhere that he's been taken captive by Boogie, so you break into his place and save him. The hammer and chisel that you get from Oppie in Chapter 2 ends up being like one of the most useful items. I think you use it like 4 or 5 times, something like that. It's at least 4. So now we've dressed up as this old widow in order to not be seen and murdered by Boogie after breaking into his house. If you ever are not wearing it in Ooga Booga Land after, he just immediately jumps on you. You have to put it on before leaving that screen even. So you go up to the dock and you're like, hey man, we want to leave, but there's this big plant monster outside. What do we do about it? He's like, alright, here's this anti-plant spray. Save a little bit of time on an animation here if you pick up the shovel with the cloak on. For whatever reason, they just never made one, so you just pick up the shovel instantly instead of having her normally pick it up and like shove it up her sleeve. So instead of getting it earlier, you go back later when you have the cloak on. So the Troll King that we were with, when you rescue him, he has like a scepter or whatever, and you end up using this scepter that's in my inventory now to turn him into this scarab that's right here. So that's the Troll King now. He's just this little beetle. And he's basically telling us like where to go. There's a man-eating plant there. So now here, another RNG section. Ooh, no dogs, we got lucky. So weren't so lucky on the pumpkins, and we're definitely unlucky on Boogie. I got punished even more just for not paying attention earlier. But getting no dogs is good. Sometimes when you go onto this screen, you'll hear Melicia's dog Cuddles barking, and that means that Militia is home, and if you try to sneak inside, you'll get caught and killed. But as soon as you get inside, they come home anyway, so I'm not really sure the point of it. But anyway, you basically have to go off the screen and then over another screen in order to cycle the dogs, so it's a little bit more punishing than just Boogie or or the pumpkins, because you have to cycle 2 screens instead of just 1. So you have you end up having 3 screen transitions. And now we rifle through Militia's panty drawer because Al Lowe also had a hand in this game.
Ew. Wow.
Ah, yes, a sock. So amazing. Wow. So the whole reason we were going through her panty drawer is to find that device. The Troll King told us to go get it. Don't want anything to do with those, you know, other garments, but this sock, this is definitely useful, so let's take this with us. Alright, so now we need to go through the Werebear Forest, and apparently they're allergic to silver. And this is where you can tell that the animation budget was not very big, because you get like 4 FPS. Alright, so now this screen may look familiar because this is where exactly where we were with Valenice before, and we were about to go to shoot, what's it called? I forget the name of this town, but it's basically the place with a whole bunch of anthropomorphic animals, because that's never been... Yeah, Falderall, that's the one. Thank you, Chuck. Basically go through all the same stuff that you did with Valenice. You have to talk to the guard, and then you just basically walk through the small door anyway, and then you talk to the mayor. This is the mayor. Fefela Yip Yap. And he spins in a circle, and then he bites his tail. I have no idea why. And then you just decide to go into Town Hall, because why not? And Town Hall is apparently open to everyone, and apparently so is Fifila the Yip Yap's office and everything. So you go through this Ashirian maze again, because gravity's not real. And then again, when you walk up to this door, you get poofed in the face, because video games. Alright, so we need to make use of that sock, because socks are ever so useful and important. Second time in this chapter. That should do it.
I'm a hunk.
You actually have to read that in order to actually use the chisel and the grape over there. Otherwise, it just like won't let you randomly solve the puzzle. It won't let you just like intuit it. You actually have to read it to get the prompts. So now we turn the Troll King back into the Troll King.
Quickly, Your Majesty.
And another item menu here. This one's kind of hard sometimes. Oh, it's so unintuitive. Clunky sometimes. Basically, on the ball of the scepter, there's a T or an F, true or false, whatever. Basically, it means whether or not you like to disguise the identity or not. So that is the end of chapter 4. They're all mad because we knocked the moon out of the sky. That one's for Jam. Bite the cheese. Like I mentioned earlier, there's no real 100% for this game because there's nothing else like to do. There's no other quantitative way to say that you did more in the game. There's just alternate things you can do, like biting the cheese there. It has no effect on the game whatsoever. So we're still sort of like discussing 100% rules, what they would be, what they could be. But we don't really have a whole lot of ideas, just because it's so linear in terms of what you have to do, and there aren't really a whole lot of options of other things that you can do. So Hundo confirmed. Now we gotta wake up this big sleeping rock face. Have a very enlightening conversation with him. So, I mentioned before, we turn the river back on. Ta-da! Now there's a river again. And that guy that was a deer is no longer a deer. Because, sure. So we got this cream, and we mixed it with the jackrabbit fur that we got earlier in order to basically polymorph potion into a jackrabbit to run past the werebears. So this is sort of that high five that I was talking about. Basically, Rosella and Valanice switch areas, so now as Valanice we're going to Ooga Booga Land. Chapter 5 is the longest chapter in the game. I don't know anymore, but it used to be about like 17 minutes or something. Just because it's a really, really long fetch quest where you go back and forth. Haven't gotten to the like hub area yet, but you'll see it. You ride a whole bunch of rainbows. Happy Pride Month, by the way. So RNG section number 2. 1. Alright, second try pumpkin, not bad. So this mummy's bone looks really, really appealing. We definitely want it. He doesn't need it anymore. So, if you like dogs, and you liked petting Kenny the good dog in King's Quest 3, I have more good news for you. There's another woofer. He does a bork now, and he's kind of scary, but we give him a bone, and then he's like, alright, you're cool. His bark's worse than his bite. And then what do you know? You can pet the dog in this game. And then he gives you a little medallion thing, because there weren't enough times where you had to give a memorable item to a grieving widow or ghost or whatever. So you have to do it again in this game, because it worked before, so why not do it again? So this is the lady that you cosplayed as earlier as Rosella, because apparently if you look at her, you die. So everyone's scared of her. So now, somebody in chat mentioned earlier the exploding part. This is it. There was kind of a weird interaction with it where in some people's PCs it would just explode infinitely. Hopefully, I haven't tried on this PC, but hopefully things go okay. It's tied to your PC speed, how long it takes for the dynamite to blow up, and that's not a good sign. We're gonna get like 4 or something like that. Yeah, we're at least gonna get 3. Yeah, I probably could have made it there. I was expecting to blow up, so just kind of like waiting for it rather than trying to make it in 2. Alright. So now we go into the crypt that we just blew up with dynamite. More dog. In order to get a skull. Wow, that's weird. Why would we grab a skull? Oh, maybe to give to the Headless Horseman. Headless Horseman. Definitely new content. Definitely never heard of that anywhere before. So this area with all the rainbows and everything, it's the area I was talking about earlier, which is the like sort of hub out of your fetch quest. And again, music is the solution to a lot of puzzles. So you play the harp there, and you get that melody from this little like cloud of, I don't know what they are, on the previous screen. Um, they play that melody as they like circle around you, and you're just supposed to like, I don't know what the term is. I'm not a very musical person, but basically just like match it or whatever. Okay. So, we'll make a couple more trips up to this area. It's not a great area just because of the last thing that you end up doing here. It is easily the biggest source for time loss in this run. There is a horse, it's a wind spirit, and you need to tame it, saddle it, whatever. At the end of the run, and it doesn't always cooperate. It's not really always good to you and can be a source of a lot of time loss. So here's where we start riding rainbows on our little fetch quests all around this land. So we went and talked to the Fates. They said something about a dream, I think. You had to go sleep, so naturally these guys are banging pots and pans. So we go back to the doctor here to go get some shut-eye, because, I don't know, some reason why. I'm sure it makes sense. Something that I don't think I've mentioned yet, a lot of times when you talk to people or in events or whatever, there will be a little like double arrow button that'll pop up where my cursor is right now. If you hold plus, the plus button, it both speeds up the game, makes it run at max speed, and sometimes the game will just, I don't know, like by itself slow down. So if you just hold plus, it will always stay at max speed. But also if you hold plus, it will dismiss that double arrow button whenever it shows up, which will skip whatever cutscenes that you can. So we had some dream, had an epiphany that there's this woman encased in ice. Oh no, we have to go save her. What does this all mean? So, Doc is out. Now we have to go use our little flute, summon our horse, whose name I forget. It was supposed to be like Nightmare or whatever, but actually Nightmare is in...
Necromancer.
Yeah, Necromancer is the one, that's it. They wanted to use Nightmare, but Nightmare is also in King's Quest 6, so they had to come up with some other, you know, edgy horse for a dark... or edgy color for a dark horse. So right here is the other clip that you can do. You can clip across this area here rather than going across the bridge. It's really not that useful. It'll save maybe a second, a couple of seconds if you can do it well, but it's only worked for me RTA like, I don't know, twice. It's really tough. So now that tree turned into a woman. Hello. So then we talk to her, and then that means that it's safe to go into Melicia's house now, because that's how this game works. And she's making flowers, and everything's pretty. So, in order to get the woman encased in ice out of the ice. We have to get a crystal, and we have to charge that crystal with light. So where do we get a crystal? Naturally from Melicia's house, because she's the, you know, big bad in this game. How many dogs are we gonna get today? No dogs. Very, very lucky getting no dogs with both Rosella and Valenice. So that's pretty cool. So there was supposed to be a puzzle or whatever to solve there, but they ended up cutting it out of the game. So it's the same sort of deal with Rosella, where like Rosella went up and then you had to go back down because they were coming home, and you used the like plant spray thing on Cuddles through the hole. You're supposed to use the ambrosia. You were supposed to use the ambrosia, this stuff right here, to tame Cuddles. And like befriend it or whatever, but I guess they ended up cutting that out of the game. Not really sure why. Chuck probably knows. So we got our crystal there. No idea. Alright, cool. Alright. That is the end of the easy RNG stuff. Stuff that doesn't lose you a gazillion. Actually, the dogs can lose you a lot. But, there's... Again, it's sort of auto-scrolly up until basically the end of the run. Actually, more so the end of this chapter, which are actually coming up on, I don't know, in a few minutes. So we never actually end up using the upper right rainbow just because it doesn't go anywhere that we need to go in our fetch quest. Not ideally, anyway. So we go back to where the scorpion was. However, thankfully the scorpion is gone. This is apparently the only place in all of this game where there is a big old ray of light. So that's where we charge our crystal. And so now it's charged. We can go back to beautiful, pretty Rainbow Land. And talk to the Fates again. This is that other place that I was talking about where it's kind of prone to crashing. Just based upon like how much you right click or whatever, the game kind of gets overloaded. So we're gonna go easy on it. Maybe lose a little bit just listening to more dialogue, but it's definitely worth not crashing. They give you a dream catcher. Alright. No crash, that's good, we're out of there. So naturally, what do you do with the dream catcher? Obviously go catch dreams. They're not always good dreams though. And in this case, oh my Lanta, it's a nightmare. So you catch the nightmare in the dream catcher. It snarls and hisses and whatnot. Then you go inside, talk to the man with the plan who spun up that nightmare. He's like, "You fool, what have you done? That was on purpose." And then you show him the crystal you got. No? You show that? Oh, you showed the... Yeah, I'm dumb. You show him that you've caught his nightmare, and he's like, "You're basically an idiot. Go take this magic carpet and be on your way."
When you ride.
Yeah. Let go of plus here because for whatever reason the nightmare will like instantly get you if you're holding on to plus because it speeds up the game like too much. Easy peasy. Don't mind the screaming. Melanie's just having a good time. Alright. So we've made it to that place in our dreams where the lady was encapsulated in ice. We use our shiny crystal to apparently melt the ice. And then this magic carpet that was spun up for us is like, hey man, I missed you. And we're like, oh, okay. You just sort of just like get kicked to the curb by this magic carpet and it sticks with her. So she gives you this harness. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is where runs come to die. At the very end of your roughly 50-minute speed run, there is this RNG section where you just have to wait for this wind spirit to show up. Sometimes it shows up in like 2 seconds, sometimes it shows up in like a minute. Just gotta get lucky. And wait. And wait.
On a rare chance, you can actually have one of the other wind spirits show up and interrupt you throwing the bridle onto the horse.
Which makes for a really fun and totally not aggravating death.
And it's no fun when that happens because the game essentially glitches.
Chuck has a pretty good clip of one where Valenice ends up throwing the harness and it like misses.
Ed?
Oh my god, it's Edgar? She had to say so because otherwise you wouldn't have recognized him. Because you didn't get to
Feels bad
see
now.
him at the end of King's Quest IV, where he was turned into a handsome hunk, and he propositioned you to marry him. And you think about it, you think about it some more, and then you say no. Poor guy. But the star-crossed lovers have met once again. Maybe they can do better this time around, you know? So this is the last chapter of the game. Getting down to the wire here. Yeah, 6 and 7 are basically just about finding a partner, their love stories. But 2 is the same thing as well, actually. Alright. So there's this little face door. We didn't get to see him open it earlier, but you get told the pattern. Left eye, right eye, nose. So this isn't just something that you have to guess, like most things in King's Quest games. This one actually kind of leads you by the nose through most of the entire game. It's much more forgiving than the earlier editions, where the clues literally aren't even in the game sometimes. Remember to put the device in there first, because if you wake the Troll King up first before you put the device in, you lose, and it's just like a 4-minute auto-scroller of you losing. The nose knows. And they had a joyous, raucous laughter. And everything was good. Oh, but wait. Melicia's back, and apparently Alexander knows magic now. And they have a duel, and the brilliant guy turns his back on her, so she kills him. That goes real well. Good job, Edgar. You're dumb. It's okay. Melisha's a baby now. Don't worry about it. So then her dog shows up because obviously he's like always by her side or something. And as cute as he is, I think we can make him cuter. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so time is coming up here in just a few seconds. And time.
I thought we'd never see
Good run,
you
dude.
again.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the help on commentary.
Valanice,
Of
I
course.
cannot thank you enough.
Anytime.
You have not only saved our world, you have given us back our greatest treasure, our son.
Your son, Edgar?
So it turns out Edgar is
know
the
our
son of a demigod, so that's how he knows magic and stuff. And he was kidnapped by evil witches slash
you
fairies
see, I was
and
stolen
transformed
as a baby by
twice.
an evil fairy named Lolotte.
So this
She
is
twisted my body and
King's
tried
Quest
to twist
IV
my
lore.
mind, but somehow I knew I was not her son. Then Rosella appeared. I knew she was special. She released me from my slavery to Lolotte, and I went home to Etheria.
We were so happy. The whole kingdom was overjoyed. We held a ball in our son's honor.
yeah. So the lore here is
Our
it's
boy
very deep.
vanished from the gardens on the night of the party. We were crushed. We set off to search for him immediately. Now I know it was all part of Melicia's evil plot.
Yeah. So then he gets kidnapped again
Something
and transformed
went
again.
terribly wrong with you, my sister. Let us start over again, shall we?
Rosella, it was I who lured you into this world. I kidnapped you. I know you can never forgive me, but please, let me assure you that I was not in my right mind. I would never have done that had I known.
Edgar, would you show me the sights of Etheria? After all, it's what I came for.
Oh my goodness, how wonderful! They're in love. Cool. And then there's this banging song at the end.
Rosella, you've been in my heart since the day I first saw you. Rosella, may I have the honor of courting you?
Yes, you may.
Really, really high quality animation here. Oh, how wonderful. Anyway. Yeah, lots of good screen tears and stuff. It's beautiful. Sorry, Jan, we're skipping the song. With permission, since that was a little bit underestimate there are some cool things I'd like to show off. All right. So, let's see if we can get 4 going here. The good 4. Bruh. We need it. Where? think this works. No. I mentioned earlier, let's see, do I have a save close to that though? I guess this is going to be my closest one. So, I mentioned earlier when I was doing this run that if you use the cloak on the crashed sled after the sled's on the ground, you just like show up in the boat, and then the sea monster comes and murders you. It's supposed to be apparently an Easter egg. I don't know. Jury's still out on that one. The best part of that scene is Cedric getting taken away by a wolf. So you ride the sled, crash the sled. Oh, drat, the sled broke. Then if you use the cloak on the sled, Graham shows up in the boat for whatever reason on this screen. Really not sure why. And the way that you like move around is very, very strange. Like it'll follow the paths sometimes. Like depending on where you click, it'll like follow the paths, like go to certain locations. I don't know, it's very, very strange. But if you use the cloak on the sled and like don't stop Graham, you go all the way over to the edge, and then the yeah, this happens. The like sea monster shows up, and you get this text. Not really sure what it's supposed to mean, because of course it's in French. Something about Lisa, whoever Lisa is, and then it bumps you off the edge, and you die. Good stuff. I don't know if I can get it running because the setup's wonky. I think I need to do.
I'm trying to get KQ4 AGI.
Yeah. There we go. We got it. Okay. What is it? Alt D. Oh, another fun thing with this one. You can, if you do Alt D, you enter like debug mode. And if you type in pirate, it gives you this because this is like the screen that you would normally get if you messed up the copy protection, as if you stole it and then it just like closes out. But what I wanted to show you. Assuming I have saves here. If I don't, this is going to be really short. Oh, I do. Okay, good. So this, actually, we'll do the other one first. So here we have the move speeds and all that. I think beam me up or something like that. Yeah, there we go. So it takes you to like a Space Quest-esque area where like these are all like the developers. You can talk to them. They like say different things. I'll let you investigate this on your own. It's fun to see all the things they have to say. But if you go back to the area where like you were, taken as prisoner before, like in the very beginning, you say Rap KQ, you get a neat little Easter egg with where Rosie just like balls out, honestly, and it's affected by game speed. So, slow, normal, fast, and then fastest is a good time. So there's this rap going on in the background. The Bert they're referring to is Roberta Williams, the, like I said, the creator of all of this stuff. This is that Easter egg that I was referencing, how the SCI version was the first one that came out. That's why it's part of the King's Quest collection, because it was the original release. And it was too much for a lot of people's machines back in the day, so they ended up creating this version, the AGI version, where it's a lot less resource intensive and whatnot. So they added in these Easter eggs. This one talking about how she kept like demanding more and more and more things that they wanted to like put in all the games and everything. And they were saying like, no, like we need to ship it and everything. And they also reference how they were one of the like biggest studios at the time. I don't think they were quite there yet, but like I said, I think it was like 1995, 1996, somewhere in there. King's Quest was the top-selling PC game series ever. So it has since lost that title, but it was big back in the day. So Rosie's a good time. She's just hanging out doing head spins and all your normal breakdancing moves. And then I think we need to get back into what's another one? I think I have it saved near here. What's this one? I think. Oh, this should be fine. 'Cause if I do ride rug, this should work, right? No. Not able to ride it this time. Okay. How about we go back there? That's a good place. Okay, so there's this random little hole here. Wonder what's in there. Oh, look, an ad for one of their games. So King's Quest was made by Sierra. They also made Space Quest. They made Police Quest. They made Quest for Glory. They really like quests. So yeah, shameless plug for one of their own games inside one of their own games. I myself haven't played the Space Quest games, but it's on my short list of games that I need to get to and play casually. So this is one that I'm excited about. It should be pretty interesting. Yeah. Briefly befuddled by this bizarre event, you brace yourself and continue with your quest before you. Another one that I mentioned earlier, but we didn't get to look at. The tapestry here. I think it's just a note. Look behind tapestry or something like that. Tapestry. Yeah. So you lift the bottom of the tapestry and peer behind it. The wall is filled with cracks. You see why a Mananan would hang a tapestry here. There are also dozens of charcoal scribbled drawings, diagrams, maps, and notes to programmers with the legend King's Quest IV. But you're uninterested in this since you presently have your hands full with King's Quest III. You lower the tapestry and smooth over the wrinkles. So basically, they're talking about how they're already working on King's Quest IV in the middle of releasing this one. Another good little get out of here. Tidbit from 3. This is fine. Yeah, this is close enough. Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Hopefully we get the whale pretty soon. Good stuff. I'm not sure if it's different per version. I forgot to look that up. I think you get pretty much the same things. But there's this bottle over here. And then you get to say like get note. Yeah, there you go. So you read note. You go through a whole list of I don't know what there are, like 5, 7, 10, whatever. There's a whole bunch of basically they're like knocking on all the people that called into the King's Quest helpline, because that was a thing back in the day, back when you couldn't just search Google for all the answers to all of your quests issues and whatnot. So they had to call into the helpline and people would give them hints and whatever. So help me, I'm lost in King's Quest 3 with a bunch of nasty pirates who want to feed me to the sharks. Come quick. These are they're basically just making fun of all the people who called in. Drug dealers are terrorizing the city of Lighton. I think this is Police Quest plug. Need a partner to put away these bad guys in Police Quest. Anybody out there at a condor drop this bottle in the ocean waiting for King's Quest 1. So yeah, Allegiance to Larry, that's another series that they did. Not quite the same, let's say, rating as all these games, but they're still fun. So yeah, go through all these on your own time. Also, there was one I just saw briefly about Humpty Dumpty, because they also did Mixed Up Mother Goose, which was another fun one. Trying to think. Right, King's Quest 2. There's another fun one to show off. Why is this not working? Oh, because I have escape pressed. Yeah. So early on, I mentioned how some words can be replaced by other words, and also how there are lots of things stolen from other media, like Little Riding Hood and Big Bad Wolf and Grandma. Sometimes Big Bad Wolf's in here. So you can say various phrases to mean the same thing. So you can say like talk her is the same thing as like talk grandma or whatever. You know, that'll like say hi to her. There's another phrase that is apparently equivalent to grandma. I don't think I want to say it out loud, but feel free to read it. That means grandma, by the way. Shout outs to Al Lowe, who had his little hands deep in these games. To the people who figure that out without AGI Studio and stuff like that, I applaud you. You have some kind of sick brain. That's there are various Easter eggs all throughout all these games. I encourage you to find them on your own. I want to encourage you with both Steam and GOG summer sales on right now to buy these games because they're a lot of fun. So shout outs to Chuck for the commentary again. Thank you very much, everyone who showed up and watched. I had a lot of fun here. This is the first time that this has been showed in a live marathon, and I was very, very nervous because there's a lot of things to memorize, and I wasn't sure I was going to memorize all of them. But thank you to everyone who tuned in and showed your support, and thank you guys to NASA for having me here and letting us have this run.